From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
With the second day of teacher walkouts, a lot of kids are out here because their school districts are closed. And they say one of the reasons why they're supporting their teachers is because their classrooms are so overfilled.
Tucson residents say they are experiencing water contamination that could lead to dangerous diseases.
And why a project to give us more clean drinking water that used millions of tax dollars isn't even being used.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Alexis Burdine.
And I'm Chaz Frazier. Thank you for joining us. More Arizona school districts are already announcing closure for next week as the Red for Ed walkout continues.
Teachers and supporters flooded the state capitol for day 2, demanding better pay, school funding, and a promise of no new tax cuts. Cronkite News reporter Imani Stevens begins our team coverage.
We will fight, and we will continue to fight the good fight for our students.
Students want to support their teachers because they're in the classroom too.
Our class sizes, man oh man.
As teachers demand a return of school funding to pre-recession levels, they say the extra money will help reduce class sizes.
Remember when we used to be able to build relationships with students when our classes were 22, 23 students?
Laura Grissom brought a sign with her that says her daughter will be in class of 2033, and she has concerns about current classroom conditions.
Afraid that what they have now is what she will have.
She hopes that her 2-year-old daughter won't have to be number 48 out of 50 students.
So my district, the average class size in the upper grades is about 36. I do not want that for her. I know the struggle. I taught for 7 years before I became a coach.
There's more kids in my class now. It's just like we don't get as much done and we don't focus as much on individual learning, more just on class learning.
But 6th grader Zoe McCune says she's hopeful for change.
Less kids in our classes and like new supplies.
Let's take the power back, people!
The chance for change, filling the Capitol lawn with a planned return Monday. In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
While the walkout will likely continue next week, lawmakers are trying to address the issue and get teachers back in the classroom. Cronkite News reporter Gabriel Gamino was at the state capitol today. Gabriel?
Alexis, today teachers re-emphasized that they will not return to the classroom until their demands are met. However, I did talk to 2 Democratic politicians who both expressed a desire for this walkout to come to an end.
The educators are clear, and I don't think that Ducey is listening in this respect. They're not looking for a specific raise just for teachers. They recognize that for schools to work, you need to have support professionals who help bring get students ready for the classroom.
Well, it's really up to us as a legislature. You know, we're here on a Friday, we've adjourned for the weekend. We should be here at the Capitol working and representing our constituents who really want us to invest in our schools, invest in our teachers and our educators. We need to just stop what we're doing and get this done.
And in an effort to get lawmakers and educators behind his plan, Governor Ducey earlier today tweeted that his 2020 plan makes teacher raises, quote, permanent, ongoing, and in the base budget, meaning that they would get inflated year after year. He also added that all current programs, including the ones for healthcare, higher education, and the arts, are protected. I also tried to reach out to House Speaker J.D. Mesnard, but was unable to reach him. However, he has told other media outlets that he and other legislators will work through the weekend to try to reach a deal that makes the governor's 2020 plan and the teachers' demands a reality. In downtown Phoenix, Gabriel Gamino, Cronkite News.
Did you forget to register to vote? The state may soon be able to send you a reminder. Arizona is one of 22 states and the District of Columbia participating in a program that combines voting, driving, and Social Security data. Maricopa County Recorder Adriana Fontes was in Washington today to talk about ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center. Fontes said it should help states keep track of inaccuracies in voting rolls while increasing integrity, transparency, and security of the electronic processes. The state should send out the registration reminders as soon as this summer.
Hundreds of people in Tucson's south side communities claim yet another chemical is contaminating their water. Decades after TCE had been causing illnesses such as cancer, lupus, and central nervous diseases. Reporter Tim John recently talked to some residents who claim the water is still making them sick.
For Robert Gutierrez and his family, water is a constant concern.
Practically everybody in our neighborhood has had problems because of that water. A lot of friends and family that lived on this block have got cancer.
And in South Tucson, many residents feel the same way. The issues began in the late 1940s when a U.S. Air Force contractor, now called Raytheon Missile Systems, began contaminating the water supply of many South Tucson communities with a chemical called TCE.
It was like an industrial solvent that they used to clean stuff. That they use it to wash off planes or something like that. It goes onto the ground and then it rains or they use water and that flows off the asphalt into the nearest wash. And at some point that gets percolated down into the aquifer.
In 2002, Tucson Water found another chemical called 1,4-dioxane in the area's groundwater. And now some Southside residents are claiming that it too is causing health problems. In the minds of the Gutierrez family, it's the water that caused the death of their daughter, Michelle.
They found the cancer in her brain, and she had been having all kinds of problems prior to that.
And Gutierrez claims that his wife and two of his other children, including his daughter, Melissa, have also been diagnosed with various forms of cancer.
When she went to the doctor, they told her she was fine. They couldn't find anything. But she kept having that pain, so we took her back again and they checked her closer and they found that big mass.
Tucson Water, however, says the water in Southside communities meets all health and safety standards. Their latest water quality report states that the average amount of dioxane in the water stands at 3.33 parts per billion.
Since 1984, Tucson Water has not served any water that violates any health standard or any health advisory to customers.
But Gutierrez doesn't believe that.
People that are elected should be there to protect us, to say something, to do something big enough to let bigger parts of the government know. Do something for the people. I mean, these people are dying.
In Tucson, Tim Johns, Cronkite News.
While there hasn't been a formal lawsuit filed in court yet, Southside community leaders say that they're working on mobilizing residents, including the Gutierrez family, who plan on seeking damages from the Air Force because of the alleged water contamination.
Arizona taxpayers spent millions of dollars on a plant to conserve water by cleaning agriculture runoff. But reporter Nicole Hernandez takes us to Yuma desalting plant, which because of funding issues hasn't been productive for years.
Officials built the plant in 1992, spending about $250 million.
And what it was designed to do is to reduce the amount of salt that returns to the Colorado River and is delivered to Mexico.
But by the time the plant was built, state officials had constructed a diversion canal to redirect farm runoff away from the Colorado River. And in the past 27 years, the plant has only operated 3 times.
The current technology of the plant is old technology. To operate the plant for 30 or 40 years, we believe the plant would need some upgrades.
According to the plant's 2009 test run, there are at least 5 deficiencies that need to be fixed before it can run. But Congress has not given the Bureau of Reclamation the money to make those changes.
The plant is currently in the standby status. However, the plant is maintained for a ready state. So if we are called to operate, if we do receive funding to operate, we would be able to mobilize the plant and get it operational.
Even if the plant were to receive proper funding to run, it would require a lot of conversation between water and environmental partners.
It would treat water that today is running to a wetland known as the Ciénaga de Santa Clara, and that wetland is a vast ecological resource.
Despite environmental concerns, Michael Norris says he is hopeful the plant will begin running again in the future. As for now, their focus is water research.
The biggest limitation would be funding, trying to get appropriated dollars on a year-to-year basis and sustain that type of funding. Technology is the easy part.
Operating the plant is not a difficult process.
In Yuma, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
If the plant were to clean water at full capacity, it has the potential to produce over 90,000 acres of water for the state.
Spring and summer often brings tourists to national parks.
But the parks may have some staffing issues. Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll show you the rule keeping seasonal employees away.
And the sharp decline in the monarch butterfly population. We'll show you how scientists are trying to save the species.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickenburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
It's high season for our national parks, but seasonal employees are now being turned away because of the enforcement of a rule they didn't even realize existed. Ariana Bustos in our Washington bureau spoke with one park ranger who lost her job because of it.
Galen Olmstead has worked as a seasonal park ranger since 2002, but when she went back to the Grand Canyon, she was turned away for breaking the 1040 rule at Oregon Caves 14 years ago.
Just follow your heart. It's a very sad situation. I got caught in it. I wasn't like, I have to remind myself that it wasn't like they went, we don't want Galen back at the North Rim. But I just got caught up in it.
The 1040 rule says seasonal park workers must work fewer than 1,040 hours in a service year, or they lose their rehire rights. Typically, this was enforced by individual park, and seasonal employees would switch parks for different seasons, but now it's being applied across the board. Tony Reardon, national president of the National Treasury Employees Union, says it is ridiculous.
You can't harm employees and really simply turn their lives upside down in this way. It is, I mean, candidly, it's outrageous.
Olmstead said it is particularly frustrating because the rule isn't being enforced the same across different regions.
I don't want somebody in Washington State saying, oh, well, we're only going to look back 4 years. In Arizona, we're going to look back 20 years. 20 years of your life to say you did something wrong you didn't know was wrong at the time.
The National Park Service said in a statement about the reinterpretation of the rule, we will continue to develop regular communications to ensure that affected seasonal employees and hiring officials have clear and consistent information to support their careers and workforce planning. Last week, Reardon, on behalf of NTU, sent letters to Congress requesting reexamination of the rule.
Let's not do something that is going to really create a problem, not only for our Park Service and our Park Service employees, but also for the American public.
Reporting from Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Using an app to make parents' life easier, a new app known as ZipSit was developed by 2 Scottsdale residents to help parents find a babysitter, book them, and even pay for them. Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee gives us a closer look.
My wife and I wanted to go out to dinner, and so she did the same old way, that the traditional old-fashioned way of doing it. She'd text a sitter, wait to hear back, text another sitter, wait to hear back.
That's why Scottsdale father Peter Helms reached out to a friend to stop the frustrations of finding a sitter.
He and his wife Kate started doing some research, and they couldn't find a solution. And so we just decided, let's just do it ourselves.
They created ZipSit, the app that launched this spring after a year of testing.
The Phoenix metro area is a great cross-section of the United States. We've got people here from everywhere. And so we feel that if we can prove it here, we can prove it anywhere.
This app uses your location, recommendation scores, and a user circle to gather sitters for a gig. A parent adds information about the kids, the rate, date, time, and location. The first sitter to accept a booking gets the job.
If you accept it, then it shows up in your sits on your schedule. And so it's nice to be organized that way too, because if you accept multiple ones, then it keeps it on a schedule for you.
The app also eliminates the sometimes awkward exchange of money with in-app payments and hosts an internal sitter rating called a sit score.
ZipSit had that one extra element for me with the sitter, the circles and the rating system that made me know that if there's friends of mine in this community that are using it and then they've approved this sitter.
Which is a win for parents with not only busy schedules, but also unpredictable ones.
So if you needed to get a sitter tonight and you've never used the app before, you could literally go on and get it within 5 minutes. You'd have a sit set up for the evening.
In Scottsdale, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
The app has a rating of 4.6 out of 5, but so far it's only been rated by 10 users. Currently it's only available on iPhones, but there are hopes for an expansion for Android users. A young star from the Navajo Nation is known in her community as Queen Bee.
Now she's on her way to the national stage. Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll show you how she's getting ready for her big competition.
I'm tracking the current air quality in the valley. Stay tuned for Cronkite News weather.
This is my last broadcast as the anchor man of the CBS Evening News, and that's the way it is.
Carrying on the baton of those who came before us, our superb team of journalists, writers, reporters, editors, producers work each and every week to tell the stories critical to you. For Arizona news that matters, tune into Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
The sharp decline of the monarch butterfly population has scientists searching for ways to ensure that the species thrives. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Randock discovers how conservationists in the valley are trying to restore the species' habitat.
Although it is one of the most common butterflies in North America, the monarch butterfly population has declined by 90% in the past 20 years, according to the Desert Botanical Garden. Researchers believe, among other factors, that the decline of the milkweed plant could be the culprit.
Milkweed plants are really essential for monarch butterflies. The female monarch butterflies will seek out milkweed to lay her eggs on because it's the only thing her caterpillars can eat. If they don't have milkweed plants, they don't survive.
The use of herbicides by farmers and homeowners are killing milkweed plants across North America, according to the Center for Biological Diversity. Experts say the monarch butterfly may continue to decline unless they find some solutions. The Desert Botanical Garden launched an initiative called the Great Milkweed Growout to cultivate the plant on a large scale and educate the public about its importance.
That's the great thing about monarch butterfly conservation, is that anybody can help. Anybody can plant milkweed in their backyard. Anybody can plant habitat that will help monarch butterflies.
There are 29 species of milkweed native to Arizona. You can pick up a milkweed plant, such as this one, at the Desert Botanical Garden to help maintain the habitat of the monarch butterfly.
So here in Arizona, our monarch populations will migrate to Mexico and to California. They contribute to both the eastern and the western monarch populations. So monarch conservation efforts here in Arizona can have this more widespread effect.
Additionally, the Desert Botanical Garden plants pollinator gardens at schools and has a partnership with the Roosevelt Center of Sustainability, where they grow thousands of milkweed plants in a greenhouse and teach students about the plant and the life cycle of butterflies.
The monarch butterfly is so charismatic that pretty much every student knows what a monarch butterfly is. And they can, because of they having that personal relationship and recognition of the monarch, they connect with the plant.
In Phoenix, Nicole Randock, Cronkite News.
Conservation groups such as the Center for Biological Diversity petitioned to protect monarchs under the Endangered Species Act. A final decision will likely be made in June 2019. Well, it's been a warm week here in the Valley.
Yeah, definitely, Alexis. When we're walking around downtown, we can feel those summer temperatures creeping up on us. But Imani, can we expect this heat throughout the weekend?
Yes, heat and so sunny and hot. But worst news is that it's going to be unhealthy, sensitive groups for your air quality. So if you have allergies, I suggest to avoid outdoor activities because that's going to make you sneeze and behaviors that you just really don't want to go through for your weekend. And the net effect is until today, but for when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be 75. Nice and sunny, a great time to go out for a hike or any other outdoor activities because it's not going to get as hot as it will be for the rest of the evening, because the highs for tomorrow in Phoenix is 93, and in the high country, 70 in Grand Canyon, and down in Tucson, 91. So it's really, really warm. It's going to be warm out there. And for your weekend forecast, coming up on Monday, it's going to be 85. And toward the rest of your work week, we're going to hit 89, the upper 80s and 70s. For Cronkite News Weather, I'm Imani Stevens.
Thousands of kids compete every year in spelling bees across the nation with the hope of making it all the way to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Reporter Olivia Richard traveled to the Navajo Nation to find out what it's like to prepare for one of the nation's biggest war of words.
For some, spelling words might seem easy, but the journey to the Scripps National Spelling Bee is anything but that. Between extracurricular activities and academic schoolwork, it takes a special kind of focus and work ethic to master the sport of spelling. Kelly Haven is a whiz with words, little words.
Talent.
Big words.
Humuhunukunukuapua.
She can spell them all, and it's a skill that's earned her a reputation around town.
A lot of people are like, oh, you're so good at spelling bees. You're like the queen bees of the hive. So we're like, oh, okay, we're the queen bees.
For the last 7 years, this shy girl from Fort Defiance has been kicking butt and taking names when it comes to spelling.
16. I've been in 16 and I've only lost 3, so that makes it 13 I've won.
And now Fort Defiance's queen bee is headed for the second time to the biggest bee of them all.
I'm going to Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C.
A dream sparked by a Hollywood blockbuster when she was just in first grade.
When I watched Tequila and the Bee, I was like, whoa, how do you get there? And I realized that that was a real place. And I was like, whoa, that's a real place. She actually won. And I thought, I'm going to go to Washington one day. I know I'm going to go to Washington one day. I may not win, but I'm sure going to be there one day.
Fanned into reality through hard work. A lot of it.
3 hours, 2 hours to 3 hours a day. If you don't love spelling, if you're not that into spelling, then it's kind of hard dedicating your time. But if you really love it, then it's not that hard.
Hard work that, for the most part, all happened at home. Luckily, she's got some pretty good coaches.
Sometimes studying 2 hours a day is just not going to cut it. I've got to look different places, odder places, weirder places to find more words.
Even if one of them happens to be her biggest competition.
Once, an interesting fact, me and Kelly, just me and her, went 35 rounds at a spelling bee. Just me and her together. And I think what makes us a two-man tornado is that we read a lot and we study a whole lot.
Last year, Kelly made it all the way to Scripps, representing the entire Navajo Nation. This year, she says, she feels pressure to go even further.
I feel like there's so much pressure. Like, honestly, I don't really feel comfortable and like, okay, I'm just gonna take your money and, you know, get out in the first round. You know, it's just, they're expecting me to do so well.
Despite the nerves, she's trying to remain positive.
There's this part of me that's like, come on, Kelly, you know, I hope you win, you know. I really hope I win, but I feel like it's impossible sometimes, but I'm sure I can do it one day.
But to the community who supports her, she's already a winner.
I have all the confidence in Kelly and her sister and her siblings, her family, because they worked really hard. They worked tirelessly.
Hours of studying and thousands of words, and it all comes down to one moment.
It's so hard watching her every part and every defeat, but every single win. All of those things come. And imagining that for her is just, you know.
For Kelly, winning is very literal.
Winning is flowers, and it's just like candy and everything in my head. It's like awesome. You know, it's like a wonderland. And then if I won Washington, I would have just started crying.
For those who support and love her, it's something else entirely.
She had a vision that Mom and Dad never did. Couldn't even imagine, but she did. And we're so proud of her.
But one thing is for sure, no matter what happens in Washington, D.C., for the community of Fort Defiance, Kelly Haven will always be the Queen Bee.
Kelly, do your very best, and you don't have to prove yourself to anyone else because you know that you're a Queen Bee.
In Fort Defiance, Arizona, Olivia Richard, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.